Hi, I'm April Ash, and I'm going to talk to you on the topic of communicating with children. So first up, some general principles and guidelines for communicating with children is to communicate with them at an age and developmentally appropriate level. So gauge their age, and then based on their age, what developmental level they would fall within, and tailor your language to that developmental stage. Speak in a gentle, encouraging tone. Make eye contact with them. Clarify and repeat information, particularly if you think there's a misunderstanding. But get them to, if they're at the communication level, the verbal communication level, get them to repeat what you've said or put it into their own words. Be patient and understanding. Acknowledge feelings and emotions. Acknowledge that they may be scared, they may be angry, they may be sad, depending on the communication or the message that you're delivering. Ask open-ended questions. So this is really trying to build their communication, and appeal to their imagination and their interests. So as I said, it's important to gauge the developmental level that the child is at, and to be aware of the communication ability within these stages and tailoring your communication to those levels and what they're able to actually do. So in the early years, from birth to 6 years of age, this is where children are developing language and motor skills. They have difficulty distinguishing fantasy from reality and understanding causality, so cause and effect. They are learning by doing and playing. So a good way to engage them in communication is through doing and playing, and repetition and routine. They're learning to express and control their emotions. So helping to give them emotional language and developing their emotional literacy. And then in the middle years, from 7 to 10 years of age, they're developing more sophisticated language. They're developing problem solving and critical thinking skills. They're learning to follow rules of play and engaging in pro-social behaviour. So learning to engage with others and interact, and how it's best to interact in a pro-social way. They have awareness of right from wrong and moral decision making. So they're developing the ability to know right from wrong as well. Their moral compass. So then in the early adolescent years, they're capable of adult-like abstract logical thought. But even though they're capable of adult-like abstract and logical thought, it's important, I guess, not to treat them exactly like adults. So it's communicating with them in a sophisticated way, or in a way that it's more adult-like, but still being very aware that they're not adults, they're still children, and tailoring your language appropriately. So they also have an emerging awareness of and concern for the future. They have interest in mastery and experimentation. There's a lot of peer influence here, and they tend to have really developed and fixed their beliefs and their principles. So they hold strong beliefs and principles at this stage about how the world should be, etc. So in terms of your communication within these age ranges, in the early years from birth to 6, you want to use gentle tones and simple language. You want to model safe exploration, curiosity, and confidence in what they're doing. You want to try and encourage them to talk as much as possible. Use lots of repetition with them, so going over and over things to help them to consolidate those skills. Use stories of everyday experiences, so things that they're going to be able to relate to, and make it fun and as interactive as possible. So in the middle years, you want to use visual and auditory sensory engagement with them. You want to see or give the child the expert role on topics, so topics that they're interested in they can be the expert and you can learn things from them. So taking that stance of curiosity. Use humour and cognitive challenges with them. So riddles, brain teasers, tongue twisters, and use interactive problem solving and critical thinking. So this is the age that they're developing those skills. So interact and use that as much as possible. Model pro-social actions, so kindness and conflict resolution with them. And engage in storytelling. So dramatic stories and child-centered stories are best with this age range. And then in early adolescence, present divergent points of view and opinion and perspectives. So they're able to think more laterally in this age range. So presenting those divergent views for them to think about. Talk about issues of concern for the age group. Talk respectfully, don't talk down to them. Use humour and creativity as much as possible, and use high interest activities. So activities that they're really interested in and they want to develop mastery or they want to experiment in. Involve them in decision-making processes as much as possible. So avoiding pitfalls. So less is often more. Simplicity, clarity, and use of everyday words is best. Don't speak to children as though they don't understand you. So speak in a normal voice. Don't speak down to children. Normalise making mistakes and allow them to learn to self-correct. Respect their personal space, especially older children. And obviously, never touch children unless a parent carer is with you and you have consent to undertake some sort of procedure. Avoid using stereotyped roles and invalidating the child's feelings. Discuss feelings as much as possible and make them aware that it's okay to feel things. Compare to other kids. Try not to do this. It's easy to often fall into comparisons, but try to avoid comparing children. And accept and model difference and remain non-judgmental. And lastly, externalise their behaviour. So don't tell them that they're bad. Always talk about what they've done from a behavioural aspect. So that behaviour was not appropriate for this situation, rather than saying basically attributing it to the individual. Separate behaviour from the individual as much as possible. And I've just got 2 resources here that are quite helpful. So communicating with children here, principles and practices to nurture, inspire, excite, educate and heal. So that's on one side there. And then on the other side, I've got how to talk so kids will listen, and listen so kids will talk, which is also a really good book on learning how to communicate with children.